On September 17, 1923, one of the most disastrous fires that ever visited any city destroyed 50 blocks of Berkeley's finest residential district, leveled 600 homes, and caused damage estimated at millions of dollars.
In the mid-1800s, the area that would become Berkeley was mostly open ranches, rolling hills, farms, and a wharf on the bay. It wasn't until 1868 when the University of California picked a new site on Strawberry Creek for its campus. The first post office opened in 1872, and by 1878, the town of Berkeley was officially incorporated. It was a small town with quiet streets, but the population was growing. It was beautiful, a few miles from the coast, protected by the hills, with views looking out over the bay. Electricity and the telephone reached Berkeley by the late 1880s. Electric streetcars replaced horse-drawn trams. The town was modernizing. By the early 20th century, UC Berkeley expanded, adding buildings like the Hearst Mining Building. Students from around the country came to study science, engineering, literature, and political thought. Neighborhoods began forming around the campus and across the hills. The homes were made almost entirely of wood. Tragedy struck in 1906 when the San Francisco earthquake hit the area. Berkeley escaped the most severe damages, but a large influx of refugees poured into the area. This booming population meant Berkeley continued to grow, sometimes faster than the city could keep up with. The narrow hillside roads weren't designed for heavy traffic. Fire hydrants were scattered, and the city's fire department, while skilled for the time, was far too small due to the city's rapid expansion. To many residents, this did not raise alarm. Northern California wildfires were common, but no major urban fire had ever threatened Berkeley. The hills were covered in thick brush and dry grasses. In the summer, hot Diablo winds could blow in, powerful gusts blowing down from the inland valleys, drying the vegetation and spreading wildfires at incredible speeds. By the 1910s and early 1920s, Berkeley was a thriving city of more than 50,000 people, filled with businesses, movie theaters, restaurants, and cafes. Before 1923, Berkeley experienced a handful of smaller fires in the hills. Fire crews usually contained them quickly. As the summer of 1923 shifted to autumn, Berkeley was enjoying nice weather, warm days and cooler evenings. No one had any idea that the city was days away from one of the most destructive urban fires in California history. On the morning of September 17, 1923, Berkeley woke up to a warm, dry day. Not unusual, but in the hills above the city, the wind was shifting, blowing in from the east. These were the Diablo winds, the same winds that had spread wildfires across Northern California for generations. Sometime around noon, eyewitnesses noticed smoke coming from the Berkeley Hills. The fire started somewhere near Wildcat Canyon. The exact cause was never proven, but theories suggest an unattended trash fire or ember caught the dry grasses. In the beginning, the fire was small, Crews normally could have knocked down the fire in minutes, but time was against them. By noon, wind gusts began increasing up to 40 to 50 miles per hour. Within only a few minutes, the fire was out of control. It moved downhill like a wave, jumping from house to house, block to block, each wooden home adding fuel to a chain reaction that no one imagined was possible. The first homes to go were in the La Loma and North Side neighborhoods of Berkeley. The house at 125 Shasta Road was the first to be destroyed. Residents later recalled seeing entire rows of houses ignite. By early afternoon, the fire was sweeping downhill towards the University of California campus. The flames were so intense and fast-moving that many students had only minutes to gather their belongings, if they had time at all. Students attempted to fight the fire, but were overwhelmed. The fire destroyed fraternity and sorority houses, along with student boarding homes and apartment buildings. Firefighters were sent from neighboring cities like San Francisco and Oakland. Embers were flying over half a mile ahead of the blaze. People reported burning fragments raining down on rooftops miles away. The wind was so loud that many described it like a freight train, a constant roar mixed with the cracking of burning wood. Water pressure in the pipes was so weak to supply all the hoses at once. Some hydrants were completely dry. The fire had now reached downtown Berkeley. To make matters worse, most of the homes in Berkeley had rough wood shingles. As the fire engulfed the wooden homes, shingles caught fire and the strong winds blew the shingles across the city, starting new fires. Audrey Board in the Berkeley Fire. Rivers of water could have been poured into that blaze without deterring it. By mid-afternoon, flames reached the edge of downtown. Wooden storefronts, apartments, and small businesses burned while firefighters desperately tried to protect the city's commercial center. Exhausted fire crews managed to form fire lines along Hearst Avenue. The water pressure here was much greater, giving them a chance. Buildings continued to burn from drifting embers. Firefighters had to choose which buildings to save and which to abandon. Firefighters resorted to explosives to clear land, creating breaks, just as they had in the 1906 San Francisco earthquake fires. By early evening, the fire was slowing, after hours of uncontrolled destruction. By around 4:30, the wind finally began to die down. Firefighters were able to surround the remaining flames and prevent further spreading, but it was far too late for thousands. When the flames finally went out, the destruction was staggering. Around 600 buildings were destroyed, and thousands of people were left homeless. Entire neighborhoods were now ash. Normal streets just hours earlier were now nothing but lone chimneys standing in rows with blackened ruins. Survivors walked through the rubble, looking for anything left behind. Families camped in parks or fled the city. People looked for their pets, their belongings, for photographs, for anything that survived. By sunrise the next morning, thousands of people wandered back into the hills to see what remained. Many held out hope that their home was somehow still standing, only to find devastation. With thousands homeless, the city had to respond quickly. Refugee camps were set up in parks, schools, and even on campus. The Red Cross moved in, relief came from all over California, and even from people across the country who had read about the disaster in newspapers. Cleaning up the neighborhoods was a monumental task. Piles of rubble with collapsed roofs covered the streets. Trees were burned down to nothing, and utilities had melted. The crews worked day and night to clear the roads, get rid of debris, and make the area safe. The city had to rebuild everything. Eventually, homeowners were rebuilding in the same neighborhoods that had turned to ash. The fire forced Berkeley and the state to rethink how communities should be built in fire-prone areas. Fire-resistant materials like stucco and tile roofs became much more common as rebuilding efforts began. Fire hydrants were upgraded, water pressure improved, and a new fire station was erected in the hills. Despite the massive destruction, one of the most striking facts about the 1923 Berkeley Fire is this: there were 0 fatalities. It was a testament to how quickly residents evacuated. The fire had taken their homes, but it had also shown the strength of the people who lived there. Losses were estimated at $10 million in 1923, over $189 million today. Almost a century later, the lessons of the 1923 Berkeley Fire remain relevant. California continues to face wildfires driven by drought, heat, and powerful winds. The same winds that fueled the Berkeley Fire. They still move through Northern California today. Disasters that would come decades later, from the Oakland Hills firestorm of 1991 and the 2018 Camp Fire, to countless modern wildfires that have devastated California communities. The 1923 Berkeley Fire was a turning point, a day when a spark became a roaring inferno that changed the city forever. Today, Berkeley stands as a reminder, not of what people lost, but of the resilience of its people. I want to thank y'all for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you on the next. Peace.